How can we use agentic AI to create actually useful, hyper-personalized lead magnets? That's what Max Mitchum, an N8N power user and founder of Triggerfy, walks me through in today's episode. Triggerfy is basically a platform to get all these different intent signals available on a prospect that might not be coming from your own site. What is an intent signal? There's all these actions that a prospect or a lead might be doing that helps you inform the playbook that you apply to basically win that deal. For example, events on the website. Did they click the get in touch button? Did they spend more than 1 minute on the FAQ site? But that's basics. Most off-the-shelf tools let you do that. So if you're doing that, you're not really ahead relative to your competition. What Max is trying to do at Triggerfy is basically give GTM teams access to all these social intent signals, the kinds of things that those leads are doing on their social sites to help inform what that best outreach might be or what that next step in your playbook might be. Once you have all those signals, you need to do something useful with it. One thing that Max is doing is mapping out the ways that all these marketing and sales signals and whatnot can inform a unified strategy for getting back to these people. That's a whole big body of work that he's working on. But to highlight exactly what he means by all this, in today's episode, he walks me through a specific part of that playbook, which is basically getting all these hyper-specific signals on an individual and creating a really personalized lead magnet to reach out to them to basically cut through the noise in their inbox. So on that note, take it away, Max. The other Max, not me, of course. Hey, Max, how's it going?
Not too bad, Max. It's funny saying Max. How's things, man?
Going really well. I got to say, you are my first Max guest, so we'll probably do something cheeky with that in the promo. How's it going, mate?
Things are busy, but I'm excited to get into this one today. It's going to be good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've talked with a builder in 2025 yet who wasn't like, it's busy season right now. But before we get into your awesome use case today, would you mind introducing yourself, everyone?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Max Mitchum. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Triggerfy. Triggerfy is a social signal platform. So it pulls social engagement from various different social sites and runs social listening. So in this particular use case, powered with N8N, it's pretty exciting because we can start to do some really cool agents off the back of social data.
Very cool. I think that's a perfect segue, Max, to your use case. What did you build and why?
I built a lead magnet agent. So this is very much geared towards sales and marketing professionals, because if we take Triggerfy, for example, we're a small team, but my goal is how can we continue to increase our user base and essentially grow more clients. In order to do that, I needed to create an outbound campaign that was beyond any sophistications that you could get with other basic flow builder tools, which N8N basically gave me. But it actually, before I dive into it deeply, I think I'm going to share my screen and showcase an interesting where this agent fits in and part of a grander vision. And I'll zoom back into this particular agent. I built this framework or playbook essentially called the network effects. It's a concept of combining 20, 30, in some cases 40 different micro automations and micro agents together. The idea being that you combine marketing and sales in a way that's never been done before. Every action that an individual takes feeds another action. I'll give you an example, and then I'll zoom into the lead magnet agents specifically. But if we look at an outbound perspective, and if you're posting on social media, and this is where it's interesting with Triggerfy, you can collect all of that engagement and reach out to these people. But when a salesperson takes a call, in this particular use case, we can pass the transcript that we're doing right now automatically through to what I call a knowledge base. This knowledge base is a trained LLM using a vector database and doing a RAG retrieval without getting too complex there to pull that data out. But the idea is that every call that's ever done, every webinar that's ever done, every podcast that's ever done is feeding this beast. So the beast always has context to what's going on at the company. That then can start to create so many different agents off the back of that. Newsletter agents, YouTube script agents, LinkedIn agents, blog agents, you name it. It can start to create this web of agents that then starts to feed everything, and it becomes this flywheel almost. But diving specifically into the part which I'm excited to showcase is this lead magnet agent. And the concept is simple. How could I reach out to you and create some personalized lead magnet for you that would be very interesting for you to read? So first of all, what is a lead magnet? Is a piece of a research article, or here's 10 steps to improve XYZ, whatever it effectively.
In layman's terms, it's that stuff you usually got to give a sneaky email address, right?
Yeah, exactly. How we're doing it in this example for today, I've just used a chat message, but what we actually do is we take data from Triggerfy, we scan social media to find when one of your prospect engages with a piece of content that is topical to your business. So for example, if I take Emacs, let's say you're wanting to reach out to maybe a head of growth or a VP of sales or something, but you want to wait until they engage with some content around like automation or workflow building or something like that. Triggerfy picks up that it's happened and then sends the data through to this lead magnet agent saying, hey, this Max person has engaged with this piece of content. And what then happens is it goes into our first agent, which essentially reads the post and the topic that you're interested in, automation. And so if we zoom out a sec on this agent, it's like we're combining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different agents together, all doing various different parts of this lead magnet / research paper.
I have a theory on this. Why did you model it like this? Why have you broken it down into a series of these agents?
I typically find that when an agent is doing a sole task, the outputs are so much better than when they are like trying to run everything all together. Just from trial and error, like I've done it before where I have one agent compile everything together. You can get a good level of results, but nowhere near the complexity that you could get to if you started to combine agents together and break down their tasks into micro tasks inside of the larger workflow piece. And you can get more nuanced in the prompting. And it becomes really hard to prompt one agent to do everything versus individual agent and individual prompting on an agent and then combining it together at the end.
Imagine as well, once it's going, like when you need to iterate on it and maintain it, it's probably easier because it's more modular. With these system prompts, you change a little phrase here, it could change the whole output. It's going to be isolated to one module.
Correct. Yeah. And you can see I've pinned all of the data because what I do, I just reiterate multiple times with a specific agent until I get the data that I want. It's also quite helpful from the cost perspective from that essence, because this thing, if I start running it, this thing will take half an hour to run. Like it's a long time to run it. And so when I break it down into sub agents as well, like I can actually tinker with it rather than thinking, oh crap, does this work? And then wait half an hour for it to run and then go check it again.
Makes a lot of sense.
How it's working in principle is we'll dive into these like various different elements here. We take the data, the social data initially via the webhook, right? And it goes through into what we call this query builder. The query builder is taking the topic. This is doing really high level. This is saying, okay, let's take, this was a topic, which was like build me a lead magnet, which shows how you can use Triggerfy to book 30 plus meetings per week. It takes that subject area and breaks it down into 4 questions. This is basically saying, hey, here are the things, if I was to give this to another agent, that I would research. And so this is where it's really handy to break down into sub agents, because I can almost use an agent to prompt another agent. And that's effectively what's happening here. A few things, these lines get a little bit confusing, but everything that I have, all these agents are hooked up to 2 tools. These tools are Perplexity, and we're using their deep research capabilities within inside the Perplexity tool, and this thing called like the Triggerfy Knowledge Hub. So that's what I was talking about when we looked at that original grand like Miro board. That is the LLM that I'm using that we're using a vector database inside of that. So it's another tool that we're basically using, and we're just querying on that tool. It comes in, it queries the agent, it creates the 4 different topics for it to start searching, and then it goes through to what we call our research agent. And so here it basically feeds the topics through to this particular agent, where it then starts to use the knowledge base, which is Triggerfy or Perplexity. So inside of this lead magnet agent, or inside of this particular research agent, I should say, there is context here that says, well, hey, like if this is a Triggerfy related question, go speak to the Triggerfy knowledge base. If it's outside of Triggerfy's domain, use Perplexity to build the research capabilities, and always use citations as well. So it's going to start to keep the citations as it goes through so that it basically doesn't hallucinate.
Okay, so you basically got Triggerfy for that really hyper-specific information, a primary source, and you got the fallback of deep research on Perplexity to fill in the gaps when it's not available basically in your own store from Triggerfy.
Correct. Most people wouldn't necessarily need to use a knowledge base. I just like to use it because I can create like quick hooky lead magnets, which I can post on LinkedIn. I did one the other day and it got 3,500 comments, people wanting to see the lead magnet on LinkedIn, which was just like mind blowing. And that came all through this, which is pretty cool.
Max, you may have to help a Max out here, get some lead magnets for it. But anyways, I digress. Please keep going.
So what then happens is that research then starts to run on this particular agent here, and it researches those topics. So you can see it passes it through into this like one large research element. It does the initial research which structures it. But one of the key things is it then feeds it through to this data set, which then starts to basically run the actual prompt. Picture this, because it gets a little bit complex here, and this is where we combine the agents. We run the query to find the 4 subjects. It then runs research on those 4 subjects and works out the prompts that it then needs to use based on that research to give to the project planner. The project planner then takes the research plus the prompts and then creates the table or the format, i.e. chapter 1 will be about this, chapter 2 will be about this, chapter 3 will be about this, but it still maintains those prompts, which is the key part, because now what we've done is we've got the 4 subjects, we've run the initial research on that, we've passed it through to there, which has created the chapters and etc. and the structure of the magnet, which then essentially is giving it the prompts, which we then feed through to this team of research assistants. If we have a look at one where we actually did an execution, so I'm going to share this tab instead, you can see it's taken the data from here and it's split it out into 10 different items. So it's one agent, but it's like 10 different research parts going on here. What effectively is happening, and this was a bit of a pain to build this particular query, is we are saying you're writing this, and this updates as the agent's running. It's like you're writing this chapter of this part. The previous chapter was X and the next chapter is X. So it always has context about what is previously written, what it's about to write, essentially.
I'm really glad that you're showing this, because my own experience in building multi-chapter stuff, it's so important that it knows what it previously wrote, what it might write in future, because otherwise it's going to repeat itself. It's going to look sloppy. Like a human wouldn't necessarily do that.
This took me ages. For some reason, I just could not get it to work for a while, the actual expressions inside of here. And it was a good feeling once we did it. The indexing of it was a pain. So then you can see what it's also given in a previous chapter, current chapter, the chapter title, but also the prompt that you need to use to run that research. And so that's what I was saying earlier, like we created the prompt based on the research, which then it then starts to do.
So in here on the bottom, guys, you're seeing like the rendered result of the expressions that Max put in there. This is like an example of what the AI agent is getting for this item. It's like really just focused on the research for that one chapter.
Yeah, so you can see here, you got write a chapter on this article, it has the context, write a chapter for this, that in this chapter explain the fundamentals. So this is like the prompt. It's fundamental shift from traditional prospecting methods to signal-based prospecting, start by highlighting the limitations, et cetera, et cetera. And then it gives it like a breakdown of what it should do. And then it gives it like a conclusion. This is how you finish it. Make sure to use Triggerfy's Knowledge Hub. And so then you can see for everyone, it is then talking to the Knowledge Hub, which will then like fire through the questions to the Triggerfy Knowledge Hub and fill in any gaps using the Perplexity tool that we wanted to do. It's weird. It's like one agent, but it's actually 10, because it's 10 different agents writing 10 different subjects in the 10 different chapters, I should say, in this case, where it then feeds it through to just a simple merge. We merge the previous data, which is effectively the title of the research paper, essentially, and then all of the chapters that it just did the research on and the output. Effectively, it's taking the context of the title of the actual lead magnet and the titles, like the subtitles that we're adding, so like the chapter titles. Then it's taking the research that the actual agent basically spits out and basically merging it together to format. So you have this, you have a title, the prompt, and the output itself. So it structures it in like a way that we want it to be structured before we send it through to a code node where we've basically just written some JavaScript to merge the parts that we want to merge into one long form of content, which you can see now it's like combined data coming in the different schema forms, which is the different chapters, engagement data, string down.
And is it HTML formatted at that point?
No, not at this point. It's all marked down still. You can convert it. Here is where you would convert it into HTML.
Oh, okay, so the input's coming in as HTML and you're having
Correct,
format
yeah, and then we're
markdown.
outputting it as markdown. You can specifically tell it to output it as markdown. The last agent is the simplest agent. It's like the editor. It takes all of the work the previous agents have done, which is coming through now from this code node here, and then just starts to write the particular magnet together in a style that you would want it to style it. So some cool things that you could do that I haven't done. If you didn't want to use this from a webhook, if you wanted to chat to it, you could get the agent at the very start to say, what style do you want? How long do you want it? And then this is where you would add that part in here. So like I've done stylization guides, content review instructions. You can really flesh this one out, but it writes it SEO optimized, which is pretty cool. It's just like the editor.
I guess also localization, probably. If you wanted to just have this up in Portuguese, that should be pretty trivial to do, right?
Yeah, like you could create it into anything, which is quite cool. Like if you had different languages, you could split it out and you could have an English agent, Portuguese agent, whatnot, and it would like feed that data through to all of those agents and then send that to wherever you'd want as well, which would be quite cool. One thing that I've not talked about, the actual LLMs that I am using in here, media. I use Claude for essentially everything.
Okay. I was going to ask, because I was seeing the Anthropic chat model, then I assumed it's because you're doing creative writing and stuff as well and research.
Yeah, I just find like Anthropic is just performs so much better. But the other thing that I notice is I am requiring it to be, as you've seen, everything is like a structured output that I have coming through from these things. Now I'm using the thinking model, because I've just like literally just from trial and error, I've used O3, O1, just the 3.7 thinking gives it to me pinpoint the structured output that I want every time without it like hallucinating.
Right model for the right job, right? I think some people, especially some engineering folks I talk to at a moment like this, might start talking about costs. And obviously that is a concern, but I think it's always consider the context. How often is it going to run? How important are these outputs? If this is a lead magnet to try and convince a human, a decision maker, to take action that costs money, is 10 cents versus 20 cents versus 2 cents really going to make a difference? Even at scale, hopefully you have a pipeline where the ROI is there. So this isn't a case we want to cheap out or use a small 7B model or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You could do that, but the cost, like it really isn't, it's not that astronomical. This thing doesn't run like 24/7. Like you said, you need the output to be a pinpoint, because otherwise when you read these things, it looks crap. And hey, what we've done here is we've basically created deep research, which costs you $200 a month to go purchase with OpenAI. This is our own version of the deep research.
And one that you can control way more, right? And make it absolutely perfect for you.
Yeah, give it your own stamp onto it. One thing that I've not done yet, but I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it all of my social media posts, lens my style of writing. And so the editor then has stylation guides based on how I've written 20,000 words in the past. Literally looks like me doing it. Obviously, like the easiest part, but I love it. Let's just add the bow to the cap, because what then happens is it creates like a Google Sheets document. It adds the text to the Google Sheets document. It then turns that Google document into a shareable document and then gets me the share URL, which then on the other agent, which I have, which is in live production, then sends it through to either like a LinkedIn automation tool or a email automation tool. So it gives them that shareable link. If we zoom back out a sec and just have a look at what's happened here, I've noticed that you, Max, have engaged with automation content on social media. I've prospected you automatically through using Triggerfy, which then creates the webhook and triggers this lead magnet and says, hey, they've engaged with this post. This post is about XYZ topic. Create me a lead magnet around that. It's then gone and ran this. It's then created a share link, which then sends that data back via HTTP to one of these particular tools, which then basically says, hey, Max, can see that you're really interested in automations. I pulled together a document that I've spent the last couple of weeks working on. It's about like how you can leverage automations and scale your teams, whatever. Here's the link. PS, go do XYZ or whatever it is. And here's the fun thing is that you could get the magnet, and I've been playing around with this now, but it's have it like research the company. So let's pretend you don't work for NA10, let's pretend you work for Apple or a random fintech company. You have research that company and work out ways that they could apply automation at a company. And so then there's this whole document contextualization around that as well. And just it looks and user, wow, crap. Like,
the team just spent like a week trying to get my attention. Wow. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. It really, the question is, can you get in front of someone? Because if you can, this stuff for me testing it so far, like converts 90% of people want to see this magnet and turn into like a meeting, which is crazy.
Because you see a lot of influencers, let's say, build some basic template and look, oh, it's super effective. Yes, but has anyone actually seen this and driven action? So you're saying out in the wild, people are clicking this and it's driving action. That's fantastic.
Yes. 90% positive reply. And so the question is then, can you hook them on the initial part? The campaign that I'm using to run this, 1 in 4 people that we reach out to are interested because there's the context of we've seen their engagement on social media. So it's a really high response rate and then a very high positive response rate on top of that.
How much would you estimate the cost is, like ballpark, for a generation?
It's really hard because it depends how much research, and it depends if it needs to use Perplexity much or not. If it doesn't, it's incredibly cheap because it just taps into my Triggerfy knowledge base. If it needs to go and run a load of research inside of Perplexity to add flavor to it, then it can get a little bit more expensive, but we're talking cents, 10 to 20 cents maybe to run this thing start to finish. It's not a lot at all.
Very viable for so many different use cases and whatnot.
Yeah, put it this way. I uploaded $10 onto like OpenRouter, play around and test with this one. And I ran 50 different magnets now and we're at £8, 50 remaining basically. actually. It really doesn't touch the size.
Still some scope to
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I think the really cool thing, so obviously this is for lead magnets, but I see so many ways, tweak the trigger, tweak what it's sending, tweak what you're researching. I'm guessing you've thought about the different applications of this general pipeline. Any first ideas from you, what you do maybe next with this, or how people could repurpose this?
One thing that I do have, and another one actually, but it's more general. This one is very prompted towards Triggerfy because it's like a Triggerfy magnet, but I've got another one which is more of like a generalization. But I would basically add prompts to create images or retrieve videos from a drive or wherever to then put into the document itself. We could have some form of LM create an image to put emphasis on what it's talking about and put the image inside of the document, which is really cool. And then the other option is if you've already got an arsenal of videos that you've done in the past, shorts, you could label that correctly inside of an Airtable or a drive, wherever you want to store it. And then the agent can go and look through the description of that video and be like, that's a perfect one to add into this section and add that video in there. It just takes that to the next level of adding a personalization and really cool like relevance to that from like some of the imagery / video perspective.
And I like that as well because again, maybe not every single Gen AI video is going to be good there, but if it's like a combination, some Gen AI, some of your you've got your asset bank and whatnot. With a tool like this, you can flexibly build that out to where some SaaS app might not have that.
Exactly.
Max, I'm curious, why did you choose the tooling that you did to build this out?
I get asked a lot, NA10 versus other tools. For me, it's the complexity and the control that you can get down to with the agents is number one. I also really like it's ironic, I only use it once inside of here, but I love the fact that I can add my own code into this system as well. When I get stuck on working out what not node to use, it's just easier sometimes just to code the thing in as well. But it's the agent complexity. I'm only using tools, agents in this element, but I've done some other agents in the past that add, for example, like this one that has like conversational agents, which do plan and execute agents, creates plans based on inbound requests and stuff like that. Just like the functionality that you can get, you just can't get in the other tools. And then I've talked about a little bit why we use Claude and stuff like that inside of there already. But it's quite simple, I think, in the sense that one I just showed, because it's really just using NA10's agents, knowledge base, and perplexity, combining that together effectively.
There is complexity there, but if you break it down step by step, I think no particular step is beyond the comprehension or beyond the capability of anyone watching this to be able to build that themselves.
No, only complex step is the read the previous chapter, here's the next chapter. The only part that gets a little bit complex, but otherwise, like you said, broken down in isolation, it's actually quite simple.
On that note, is this going to be, or a version of this, something that's free for folks to check out and learn from?
Yes, I can chuck this wherever you want me to put it, Max, and we can have all of the prompts, everything to put in there for sure, and then people can tailor it as they see fit.
Awesome. That'd be great, because I think this is such a great inductive learning resource, especially like studying those prompts and whatnot and being able to tweak them. We do have an official template library on nnn.io/workflows. If you upload on there, even without signing up for this is going to be a shameless shill. Even without signing up for our affiliate program, it does start tracking affiliate revenue. So if your page gets signups, you can get a bit of bread as well, which I think is totally fair. But yeah, if you upload that, guys, there will be a link on this video wherever you're watching it, somewhere above below. Check that out. Max, thank you so much for showing this to me. I think it was really nice to see a real use case that you are using that is creating real value. I think that's important because a lot of us, we're trying with our little personal agents at home and stuff, but it's nice to see it creating real business value. And truly, any other cool, neat use case that you have, send me a DM. I'd love to have you back on the show, mate, and you show me what you're working on.
I just got a ton of agents, man. Like I get a little bit lost sometimes, and then I realize I just built something for the sake of building it and then actually use it. But
awesome. So we can have a meeting of the Maxes and we show off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just nerd out for a while on what is the most sophisticated, pointless thing that you've actually built.
Well, Max, have a beautiful rest of your week, mate. And I'm going to hold you to uploading this online because you said it on camera now, brother.
Yeah, man, I'm going to do it. Don't you worry. We'll get this one out there. I think it's a cool one for people to have.
And lastly, if people like what they see, where can they go follow you and keep up on what you're sharing?
Go check me out on LinkedIn, Max Mitchum. On there, I post a lot of my stuff on there. Pretty much every other post is NA10-esque. And then I just launched a YouTube channel last week, so I'm trying to catch up with you, mate. But I will be posting more in-depth stuff on there, which will be pretty much centered around all of the agent stuff that I do. Probably those two places, man, are the best place.
Very cool. It's always good to have another Max making NN content, but we might have to create a little leaderboard at some point and get a little contest going there. By the way, mate, people love in-depth content. I've done some one-on-one stuff, which people ask for as well, but there's the longest video I've done I was worried. People are like, nah, go deeper, go more. So I think this end up stuff, like you getting in the weeds here, is going to be very interesting for people.
Wicked. That's good to hear. Yeah, that's the concept of the YouTube channel.
Mate, have a beautiful rest of your week and happy flowgramming, Max. See ya.
And you, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much, Max. I love how you're thinking about this, nerding out on how to evolve the status quo and what people do in GTM today. And I think N8N is fast becoming like a dream toolbox for go-to-market teams. So hopefully this might inspire you how you could apply N8N and tools like Triggerfy to really up your game relative to the competition. If you want to see more go-to-market GTM use cases, do drop a comment because I use comments basically to inform what videos I do next. I'm Max. This is the studio. You're awesome for watching this video and happy flowgramming.